Today is July 9th, 2025. This is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
And we're nearing the end of a journey here.
Well, we're at the end of Deuteronomy today.
Yeah, very last day. We got the last two chapters, chapters 33 and 34.
Right. So today is Wednesday, and in the morning, we are dropping this episode with chapters 33 and 34. This afternoon, we are going to drop a recap edition, and so that will be where we're going to recap the whole book of Deuteronomy.
In one session, kind of where we've been encouraging you to write summaries of chapters, we're going to kind of back up and give you a summary of the whole book that we just read. Yes. And, you know, I've heard some feedback from people. They really appreciate the recaps.
Yeah, and they've been helpful for us to do, for sure.
And so that's a super short summary of each chapter that even potentially you can write in your book, just to even look at just kind of one view, few words, just what it's about.
Yeah. And then tomorrow, Thursday, we will start the book of Luke.
Yep. Getting back to the life of Jesus again. Be a lot easier reading than Deuteronomy has been.
Right. So there's going to be 3 episodes dropped in 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. So just hopefully that'll make sense to everybody, and you'll get to listen to all of it.
Okay, so here in chapter 33 and 34, we see Moses doing much of what Jacob did. You remember in Genesis 49.
Oh, he ended with blessings.
He called together all of his sons, and he blessed them one by one, 48 and 49 of Genesis. Right. And now here Moses puts a blessing on all the final tribes of all the tribes of Israel. So just that's a little hint for a summary for you.
Well, and if you remember, the sons of Jacob, that's who Jacob blessed, and now those same names are going to come up with the tribes. So we've got Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin.
Really encourage you to try to remember that. I'll put a link again in the song. I mean, it's so important that if you want to know your Bible, like these names are super helpful.
Knowing those 12 sons of Jacob will give you hooks for a lot of things. Passages.
Okay, here we go. This is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Israel before his death. He said, "The Lord came from Sinai," Exodus 20, "and dawned from Seir upon us. He shone forth from Mount Paran. He came from 10,000s of holy ones with flaming fire at his right hand. Yes, he loved his people. All his holy ones were in his hand. So they followed in your steps, receiving direction from you. When Moses commanded us a law as a possession for the assembly of Jacob, thus the Lord became king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people were gathered and all the tribes of Israel together."
Okay, here's the first tribe. "Let Reuben live and not die, but let his men be few."
It's not such a blessing. I guess he's going to live, but he's going to not be so populous. "And then he said of Judah, Hear, O Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him into his people. With your hands contend for him, and be a help against his adversaries."
Judah gets some special blessings.
Yes,
because the Messiah is going to come from Judah. Okay, verse 8. "And of Levi, he said, Give to Levi your Thummim and your Urim to your godly one, whom you tested at Massah, with whom you quarreled at the waters of Meribah, who said of his father and mother, I regard them not. He disowned his brothers and ignored his children. For they observed your word and kept your covenant. They shall teach Jacob your rules and Israel your law. They shall put incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar." That's what the priests do.
Yeah, it's a good blessing. And the priests, the Urim and the Thummim, if you're not familiar with them, those are like little things or something across your chest that you would,
like stones,
oracles to
tell
difficult things from the Lord. That whatever, when you need direction from the Lord, use the Urim and the Thummim, and the Levites should have that. They should also teach and burn incense and offer sacrifices.
Yep. Okay, verse 11, "Bless, O Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hands. Crush the loins of his adversaries, and of those who hate him, that they rise not again."
Verse 12, "Of Benjamin he said, The beloved of the Lord dwells in safety. The high God surrounds him all day long, and dwells between his shoulders."
And of Joseph he said, "Blessed by the Lord be his land, with the choicest gifts of heaven above, and of the deep that crouches beneath, with the choicest fruits of the sun and the rich yield of the months, with the finest produce of the ancient mountains and the abundance of the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwells in the bush. May these rest on the head of Joseph, on the pate of him who is prince among his brothers.
I have no idea what a pate is.
I don't know either.
Okay. Well, let's pass on.
Pate. I don't know. 17, a firstborn bull. He has majesty, and his horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he shall gore the peoples, all of them, to the ends of the earth. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Wow.
Ephraim and Manasseh are the sons of Joseph, and
Yes.
Joseph gets quite a blessing here.
Joseph gets a long, abundant blessing.
Yep, 18. And of Zebulun he says, Rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and Issachar, in your tents. So these two get lumped together, I guess, Zebulun and Issachar. They shall call peoples to their mountain. There they offer right sacrifices, for they draw from the abundance of the seas and the hidden treasures of the sand.
And of Gad he said, Blessed be he who enlarges Gad. Gad crouches like a lion. He tears off arm and scalp. He chose the best of the land for himself, for there a commander's portion was reserved. And he came with the heads of the people. With Israel he executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments for Israel.
And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's cub that leaps from Bashan.
And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, sated with favor and full of the blessing of the Lord, possess the lake in the south.
And of Asher he said, Most blessed of sons be Asher. Let him be the favorite of his brothers, and let him dip his foot in oil. Your bars shall be iron and bronze, and your day as your days, so shall your strength be.
There is none like God, O Jeshurun, who rides through the heavens to your help, through the skies in his majesty. The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms.
Jeremiah 31:3, yeah.
Yes, but Elizabeth Elliot used to quote that on her radio program.
And what does it say? You are
You are loved with an everlasting love, and underneath are the everlasting arms. Anyway, middle of the verse. And he thrust out the enemy before you and said, Destroy. So Israel lived in safety. Jacob lived alone in a land of grain and wine, whose heavens drop down dew. Happy are you, O Israel. Who is like you? A people saved by the Lord? The shield of your help and the sword of your triumph. Your enemies shall come fawning to you, and you shall tread upon their backs.
Okay, we've already talked about a summary of chapter 33. We're going to 34. The ESV says the death of Moses. If you just find us an outline, as a summary, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the Negeb and the plain that is in the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zoar. And the Lord said to him, This is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to your offspring. That's Genesis 12. That's how important this is. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no one knows the place of his burial to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was undimmed, and his vigor unabated.
That's amazing that he was that old and yet that full of life and strength.
Yet God said you're going to die, and he died. And the people of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. And what's significant here is that Moses didn't write portions of Deuteronomy 34. Someone added it, probably Joshua added it, as Joshua is perhaps the writer of the next book as well.
Right. Okay, verse 9. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the people of Israel obeyed him, that's Joshua, and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. And there is not arisen a prophet since in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. None like him for all the signs and the wonders that the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt. So that's the plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, to Pharaoh and all his servants and to all his land. And for the mighty power and all the great deeds of terror that Moses did in the sight of all Israel.
Yep. Well, there's the end of the book of Deuteronomy. Hope you've enjoyed it, and you can look this afternoon. We're going to drop a recap edition of the book of Deuteronomy.
Right.
Okay. We will see you this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.